Hi, welcome back to week 4, our final week of the nutrition course. Today, we're talking about probably the most important topic out of all of this. The topic that gets talked about the least out of all this, how to maintain your fat loss long term. So just a quick overview of the course, just if you haven't been with us for the last 3 weeks. Again, we've really gone through how to set your diet structure, troubleshooting common reasons that fat loss stalls, how to adjust your diet over the course of the fat loss phase, and then again, today we're talking about how to maintain your results long term. So if you've missed the first 3 weeks of this will be valuable. Definitely go back, work through those first 3 weeks first. You'll have a very complete understanding of how to successfully create fat loss individualized to you and your lifestyle, and also how to maintain it. All right, so let's go ahead and get into why we are spending a whole week talking about how to maintain your results long term. So the reality is we have some scary weight regain statistics. Within 1 year of dieting, 50 to 70% of people who have lost weight will regain it. Within 2 years, the number shoots up to 85%, and within 3 years, 95% of the people who lose weight regain it. And then out of all these people that have regained that weight, approximately 50% will gain back more than they originally lost, which leads to a quote that you've probably heard before: we don't have a weight loss problem, we have a weight maintenance problem. Truly, once you understand the fundamentals of nutrition, like we talked about the last few weeks of this course, it's not that complex. And you see people all the time losing weight crazy quickly. The problem is we have a very hard time keeping it off. So again, today we'll really get into what do we need to do to successfully maintain this. All right, so here we have a concept we call nutritional periodization. So the idea here is nutritional periodization basically is you're splitting your fat loss up into distinct phases. So first and foremost, this just means you're not always dieting. So think of that person, or we all can probably think of somebody that has been dieting for years and years and years, but they never actually achieved the body that they want. I would argue that this is due to a failure to actually properly periodize your nutrition. So basically, we're splitting your nutrition up into phases. Now, we can overcomplicate this pretty quickly, but basically what you need to know is you don't want to spend too long in a fat loss phase. It's smart to spend about 6 to 12 weeks in a fat loss phase. You're eating fewer calories than you're burning, and we're aiming to lose about 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. Then every 6 to 12 weeks, we're going to implement a diet break, which can be anywhere from 1 to 4 weeks. We're going to get into this a little bit more in just a second here. Typically it's 1 to 2 weeks, but this really helps. First and foremost, it helps you stick to the diet longer. So it's typically towards the end of that 6 to 12 week fat loss phase, you start to see people's adherence to the diet really start to dip. They're falling off track with their diet a lot more, thus they're not making progress. And I think we talked about this last week. People get in the situation where 4 to 5 days of the week they're crushing it with a diet, then 2 to 3 days of the week they completely undo that and get stuck in this cycle. So really, nutritional periodization helps break this cycle, and it's important for a lot of other reasons we'll talk about as well, but that's one of the big ones. It actually allows you to adhere to the diet long enough to get all the way to your end result, because we're not always dieting. So we have these diet breaks. Again, adherence improves, your metabolic rate and your hormones improve, and we decrease the psychological diet fatigue. From there, we also have this idea of maintenance phases, and these are really to basically just help you cement your results once you get to your end goal long term. So, and then finally we have these periods of also eating more and focusing on building muscle, which is this lean building phase on here. Now, I will say that this is more optional. All right, so let's get into how to actually apply this to you and make it all make a little more sense. So with application to where you're all at right now, about 3 weeks into a diet phase. So for you, coming up, the first thing we'll be implementing, the first one of these phases, is a diet break. So actually, let me take a board and break down. All right, so this is basically how, just so this makes a little bit more sense, this is basically how we would set up an entire year of nutritional periodization for a client that works with me through nutrition coaching. So typically weeks 1 and 2, we're really just focusing on what we call priming, or I call it a prepare phase. We're building good habits around food choices, making sure you're getting movement, you're tracking your macros accurately, and you're actually in a good place to diet. From there, we'll jump into a fat loss phase for, again, 6 to 12 weeks. We're focusing on losing 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week, or the measurement changes like we talked about in previous weeks. Then we'll hop into a diet break for 1 to 2 weeks. This gives your body and your mind a nice break from just all the stress of dieting. Your hormones improve, your metabolism improves, you're ready to get back to dieting after about 2 weeks. Then typically we'll jump into another fat loss phase. And again, this can last anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks. So for most clients, people that want to work or that want to lose, let's say 15 to 25 pounds, this is, let's say 50 to 30 pounds, somewhere in that range, this is the typical client journey. So by this point, they've typically lost about all the fat that they want to. So then we go into a maintenance phase. Here we're just, and we're gonna go to all this a little bit more depth, but here we're just cementing all these changes we've made as your body's new normal. So your hormones are gonna normalize, your metabolism is gonna increase, your hunger is gonna decrease. This is super key to actually sustaining results long term. And then past that, that's when we get into building phases, mini cuts, things like that, which aren't as relevant to the fat loss. That's again more optional, but this makes it a little bit more clear how we actually apply all these different phases. So taking it back here to diet break. So all of you are about 3 weeks into the fat loss phase. So the first phase that we'll be implementing after this fat loss phase is a diet break. So studies really seem to show that taking diet breaks can lead to a slightly higher basal metabolic rate, and they also allow you to maintain more lean muscle, both which of course mean you have a faster metabolism. So why this is, as far as your BMR being slightly higher, is still kind of blurry. But we do know periods of eating more make it easier to maintain more muscle. So when you get to your end goal, you have more lean muscle, you have a slightly higher metabolism, meaning you can eat more, you feel better, and you look better at the end of your diet. And like I just alluded to, we also know it's easier to maintain a good muscle because we are going to be refilling your glycogen stores here more frequently, and you just have more time to eat more food. Plus, these diet breaks really make the diet psychologically easier, and it really just helps you stick it out long term. So again, like we talked about, typically about 6 to 12 weeks in, we'll start to see people's adherence dip. So people are having a lot more trouble sticking to diet. A diet break, which is 1 to 2 weeks, where we're eating calories at maintenance, so we increase your calories, gives you a nice break in that. You get to have a little bit more food flexibility. You reduce your amount of food focus. You're not thinking about food all the time. It just makes it a lot easier. So then 2 weeks, you feel refreshed, you feel ready to get back to the diet and crush it again. It also gives you time to practice maintenance, which is something that, again, I'm going to talk about in just a second here. So let's get into then how we actually implement a diet break. So like I mentioned, the goal here is to return you to your calorie maintenance, your new estimated calorie maintenance. So as we go through the course of a diet, our body gets smaller, we're eating less food, we're likely moving less. The amount of calories we can maintain on decreases. So it's smart to look at your average weekly weight loss over the last month. So for convenience sake, let's just say you lost 1 pound over the 1 pound per week on average over the last month. So we know that to lose about a pound of fat, you need to eat about 3,500 calories less than you burn. So if you're losing approximately 1 pound per week, we know that you're in about a 3,500 calorie per week deficit. So to maintain, you can add back 3,500 calories per week or 500 calories per day. So when we're talking about our calories here, that makes it pretty simple. And then we want to keep our protein about the same, so about 0.8 to 1.2 grams per pound, fat about 0.3 grams per pound of body weight. And then there's a little bit of evidence that proves it might be more optimal to increase your calories via carbs here. So say you're increasing your calories 500, then most of that increase comes from carbs. So that would be 125 grams of carbs for those of you that are tracking macros. That said, if you feel like you've just really been missing fatty foods, say you want to work a couple ribeyes into your diet, or you're somebody that is just tracking protein and calories, the idea that we need to increase calories via carbs to get the most results out of this, there's not a ton of evidence that shows that, and the most benefits come just from the overall increase in calories. So if you've missed fatty foods more, you want to work a couple fatty foods in during this diet, or you're just tracking protein and calories, don't worry about the macro ratios too much. That said, it is very important that you stick mostly to the foods that you've been eating on the diet. So we already talked about food selection quite a bit in week 1 and week 2, focusing on lean proteins, fibrous foods. The reality is, for maintaining weight loss long term, food selection is always very, very important. If the foods you eat on a diet and the foods you eat off a diet look drastically different, if you're choosing all these satiating, filling foods on the diet, and then as soon as it's over, you choose all these hyper palatable, super easy to overeat foods that don't keep you full very long at all, you're going to regain the weight back quickly unless you're good with just being very, very hungry. Again, a big goal here is auto-regulating appetite by helping you choose habitually very satiating foods. So food selection is key. You're okay to work in some more flexible foods here, but don't drastically change your food choices. Otherwise, you'll find that you're eating a lot less filling foods and you're more hungry than you were on the diet, so the mental fatigue doesn't really reduce. And then just really think of this as a time to practice maintenance, which again is just a key skill to have mastered when you get as lean as you want. This is what makes your results sustainable, and that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more. So again, one more time, you take these generally every 6 to 12 weeks of dieting. So how I gauge whether a client is ready for a diet break or not, typically mood and motivation and hunger are the 3 biggest biofeedback markers that I look at. So normally we'll see a super strong point, and typically for most people it's at about 10 weeks, where 2 weeks consecutively, mood, motivation take a big hit, and hunger and cravings seem to increase. So typically at that point we know, okay, it's about time for us to take a diet break here. And then again, 1 to 2 weeks is a good rule of thumb for most people. I found most people do well with 2 weeks. 1 week is generally, for most people, 1 week is pretty short. They don't feel quite ready to get back to the diet. So 2 weeks is a good marker there. And again, we already worked through this calm client journey. So again, for all of you, basically we're right here. So take the diet break. You still have more fat to lose. Basically on this diet break, reassess where you're at. You want to get leaner? Great. Then we'll go back to the fat loss phase where you're doing exactly what you were doing before. Aiming to lose about 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week. If at the diet break point you don't want to lose anymore, then we're going to go right into a maintenance phase. Otherwise, go through your second fat loss phase, and again, you can kind of rinse and repeat. If you still have more to lose, actually after the second fat loss phase, regardless, once you get to about 25 to 30 pounds of weight loss, I would at least take another maintenance phase, which we're going to break down here in just a second, a little bit longer for about a month. And then if you still want to get leaner, go back to a fat loss phase, or we can even go to a building phase for a bit of time and then go back to a fat loss phase. But let's assume most of you are wanting to lose about that 25 pounds or less. Then we're going to go from the second fat loss phase right into a maintenance phase. So like it sounds, a maintenance phase is just a time of focusing on maintaining your new leaner body after the diet. This is the diet after the diet, so to speak, which is a huge piece that so many people are missing. Again, it's super easy to commit to 12 weeks of just being really, really hungry. You see your body changing what seems like every day. You're dropping fat like crazy, you're crushing it, you feel great, you're getting leaner. Then the diet ends. And at that point, your mindset has to shift a lot, because once we get as lean as we want, it's kind of like, okay, now what? And just maintaining isn't nearly as sexy as seeing your body change drastically every single week. So it's a whole nother mindset we really have to take on of, okay, my goal is literally just to maintain this new body. Because if we don't go into it with that mindset, then you resort back to, okay, I'm very, very hungry now. I don't have these fat loss goals anymore, so let's eat. And it's very easy, well, you should be eating more. It's very, very easy to let yourself way overdo that and gain most of the weight back, like we saw those stats at the start, if you don't have a plan for the diet after the diet. So basically, during a maintenance phase, your system normalizes and your body's going to be getting used to this new weight. So when we first lose a lot of weight, our body's deviated very far from its previous settling point, which is basically a combination of all these different environmental factors, plus some of your genetics, but a large part of it is environmental that kind of kept you where you were before. Now you've drastically changed all those, but it's very easy to fall back into these old habits. So your maintenance phase basically just allows you to cement this as your body's new settling point, so to speak. This is where your body fat sits now. So all these phases, really the most important part of this is these maintenance phases allow you to really focus on, okay, what habits and behaviors do I need to make sure I maintain in my lifestyle every day to actually keep this new body? So, like, what do my food choices need to look like? After my fat loss phase, am I still prioritizing very satiating, filling foods 80 to 90% of the time? Is my hunger low, like a 1 to 2? Is my hunger very manageable, or is my hunger still very high? Because then that's another sign, okay, maybe we need to regain a little bit of weight. Or more than likely, unless you've gotten super lean, that's not very likely. More than likely, okay, maybe I am getting a little bit too flexible with my food choices. Am I keeping my daily movement up? Am I consistent with my steps? Am I training enough? Am I also still making sure that how I'm eating right now in this maintenance phase, and this is one of the biggest things I focus on with clients, and how I'm eating right now in this maintenance phase, a realistic picture of what my lifestyle will look like long term. So if I'm working with a nutrition client, we enter the maintenance phase and they're eating 95% clean foods and they're never going out with their friends or anything like that. And I know when we're not working together anymore, they will be like going out with their friends once a week and maybe getting a little bit more flexible. Then I will actually push you to, okay, I want you to actually start doing these now. So we can make sure you have a solid understanding of how to make all of these work with your diet, or with your nutrition strategy, not your diet, I should say, because we're not in a diet anymore, but how you can make all these work and we can still watch you maintain your body composition. So this is a super important piece of all this. And again, your hormones are also going to normalize. It's more than just the habits, but truly for most people, the habits are the biggest piece of all of this. But also your metabolism, your hormones normalize, and we're going to get into that a little bit more in just a second. But let's go ahead and talk about how to implement a maintenance phase. So first and foremost, here I like to tell people we want to return calories to about 90% of your estimated maintenance intake at the end of a diet. Now, if you want to go 100% of your estimated maintenance intake, like we do with diet breaks, that's fine. I say 90% because most people are typically concerned with overshooting maintenance and gaining a little bit of fat. Now, also here, realize, even if you do overshoot maintenance by like 100 calories, you have to eat 3,500 calories over your maintenance intake to gain 1 pound of fat. So there's this irrational fear. Often we bump up to maintenance after fat loss phase for the first time. The people are just going to like, oh shit, I accidentally ate 100 calories and gained 10 pounds overnight. That's not how it works. Unless you accidentally eat 35,000 extra calories, you're not going to gain 10 pounds overnight. So realize that even if you slightly overshoot it, you're not going to regain it. But again, using the same path as before, I would say return about 90%. Again, these same numbers as before. If we know that 3,500 calories equals about a pound of weight loss, then look at your weekly average and roll from there. And similarly to what I was just talking about, it's super important to keep taking body measurements and your weight at least 3 times a week here. Because here we can see how your body is trending. So if you do overshoot maintenance, but you're not taking your weight, you're not taking body measurements anymore, you very likely won't know that. So still tracking these metrics is very important. So from there, we're just going to watch how your measurements change and increase accordingly. So typically we're going to increase to about 90% of maintenance. We'll sit there for a week. We'll watch your measurements. We'll watch your weight. And we'll likely increase by another 50 to 100 calories from there. And the reality is, maintenance is a moving target. So what I mean by this, over here we have, and we talked about this in a previous week, how your metabolism adapts or slows as you eat less. You're smaller, so you burn fewer calories via your basal metabolic rate. If you're eating less, you're burning fewer calories with the thermic effect of food. Your smaller body means you burn fewer calories through both your daily movement outside of the gym and in the gym, and typically your non-exercise activity decreases as well. Now, as we eat more, all of this happens in reverse. This is called adaptive thermogenesis. So basically your metabolism upregulates. So one, you're eating more, so the thermic effect of food is going to increase. You're also going to have a lot more energy, so you'll start doing little things like fidgeting, blinking, pacing, more than you would before. Our glycogen stores are going to be refilled. We might regain some muscle, and if you do gain some fat, then you're going to be burning more calories via both NEAT and exercise, and then your BMR can also slightly increase potentially. So from there, this means we're burning more and more calories. And really this depends on the individual, how much your metabolism increases as we feed you more. Some people have like an 800, some of the clients that I've worked with have an 800 calorie range where they can maintain. Their metabolism just adapts, and mostly here it's NEAT right here, that so much that they can eat a lot more calories. So this is why I'm saying maintenance is a moving target. So typically we watch your measurements, how your weight is trending. If we're not seeing increases there, then we can keep increasing by 50 to 100 calories every 1 to 2 weeks. Now, I want to make it very clear here, this is something we do after you're already at your estimated maintenance. So there's this idea of reverse dieting, we're very, very slowly increasing from where you started the deficit by just 50 to 100 calories. Don't do that here. I want you to increase to right about your estimated maintenance first. All right, so basically there, we just keep gradually increasing by 50 to 100 calories. You can increase via carbs or fat, whichever is your preference here. And from there, we're just watching how measurements are changing. Eventually, we'll get to the point where for multiple weeks, you see weight. Now, I should also say that it's typical for your first couple weeks of maintenance to gain about 5 to 7 pounds. Now, don't worry. Again, 3,500 calories to gain a pound of fat. Most of this is going to be water, you're refilling your glycogen stores, and you literally just have more food in your belly. So it's super normal to weigh a bit more here in the first couple of weeks. But past that point, we don't want to see much weight gain. So if we're literally just looking to sit at maintenance, we don't want to see weight gain, and we don't want to see measurements increase around your waist for 2 consecutive weeks. So the reality is here, if you are recomping a bit, if you are building a little bit of lean muscle due to eating more, you could see like your thighs increase, hips increase. These shouldn't really be drastic increases either, unless you're relatively new to proper training, but that's a whole other rabbit hole we could go down. But really just look at your waist measurements. How are those changing? If you're consistently seeing those trend up, you probably know you've overshot maintenance. Or if you're consistently seeing weight gain, you overshot maintenance. So at this point, decrease by 100 calories. I would start out, and again, keep watching those measurements, look for them to stabilize, and there you found your maintenance. All right, so really, when we're talking about nutritional periodization for fat loss, those are the keys. It's smart to take at least a month in a maintenance phase. Again, practicing the skill of maintenance is key. You don't have all these habits in place. If you don't know what your food choices need to look like to maintain this long term, it's going to be a lot harder. So again, the reality is, for most of us, this means eating 80 to 90% whole foods most of the time, focusing on lean protein, focusing on fiber, getting those at most of your meals, getting lean protein at every meal. That helps so much. And then just being aware of when you are going to splurge, so to speak. You just really think about times when it's actually important to you. For most people, like, there's nothing against pizza. It's not like a bad food or anything like that, but it is typically harder to work in your calories. So I use the example, like, if it's a Wednesday at work and you're just sitting at your desk, like, there's no reason to do that. Save it for like the weekend when you can really be present and enjoy it with your family. So really just thinking through things like that. How much enjoyment am I really going to take from this? Is it really important to me, or am I just doing it out of scarcity just because this food is available? And really just thinking through things like that. Truly, these simple behaviors are what make all the difference in actually maintaining long term and breaking this yo-yo diet cycle. All right, a few other considerations here. So, like we talked about before, the biggest downregulation in metabolism in formerly obese individuals is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So when they look at, because you hear these people talk about, man, I lost all this weight and now my metabolism is screwed. Now, by the end of this course, you have a pretty good understanding of metabolism already, but the biggest decrease they see in these individuals is their non-exercise activity thermogenesis plummets. So if you are on point with your calories, you are on point with your food quality, the only thing here that we're really too concerned about could potentially cause you to regain is if you let your movement completely fall off. So it is important, like we talked about before, to have some type of movement goal. We've already talked on protein and fiber, really choosing satiated foods a lot. And then just keep up some type of resistance training 3 to 6 times a week is a good rule of thumb for most people. All right, guys, and in a nutshell, that is really long-term maintenance. So, hope you took a ton of value from this course. This has been super fun. Make sure if you drop any questions, any struggles you have, or any confusion you have about how you actually apply this to yourself in the comments below, and we'll get them answered on our live on 4/16. Again, thank you all so much for having me. This has been super fun.